Cheng Shixian, a CEO born into a lineage of traditional, domineering tycoons. In his family, every heir went through a twisted, formulaic upbringing designed to mold them into perfect alpha CEOs. But such methods always left scars. Some became emotionally stunted, withdrawn and cold. Some grew volatile, suspicious, or obsessive, with an overwhelming need for control. As for Cheng Shixian himself, he developed a unique stress response. He suffered from severe loss of appetite. Just looking at food made him nauseous. Eating led to vomiting and long bouts of either starvation or binging. The cause? The family's strict CEO image management code. According to it, appearance defined the quality of a CEO, looks were everything. So, as the 58th heir to the Cheng family, Shixian pushed himself into extreme dieting until he slimmed down successfully. Today marked a new beginning, the first day in his own home. Independent from the family's suffocating grasp. He was finally free, ready to start a new life. At the moment, President Cheng was giving cold, efficient instructions to his staff, all while wearing a cute pink apron and cooking noodles. When the noodles were done, he opened his laptop and tuned into a livestream from Real Era, a boy group he followed. On screen, the idol, his favorite member, Zhu Yi, greeted his audience, holding a bowl of the same noodles. But before Cheng could see his face clearly, the screen was flooded with fans' comments and hearts. So, naturally, the CEO turned off the live chat. Now, he could finally enjoy the view, Zhu Yi slurping his noodles happily, exclaiming how delicious they were. Cheng watched, satisfied, then coolly sent 888 virtual hearts before starting his own meal. It all began when he stumbled upon Zhu Yi's livestream by chance. To his surprise, watching this cheerful idol eat actually eased his nausea, even improved his condition. Brilliant as he was, he couldn't explain it. Perhaps, this was what people meant when they said, some laws in CEO fiction cannot be defied. His father had once told him, never show your true heart to outsiders, unless you find the one destined for you. And when that day comes, seize them at all costs. But Cheng Shixian disagreed. He was a modern CEO, rational, not ruled by outdated family dogma. So, to him, Zhu Yi was simply a pure, innocent eating show idol. Zhu Yi had once said in his stream, I often cook simple homemade meals. Takeout isn't very healthy, and food made by my own hands always tastes better. The process of cooking is its own kind of happiness. Cheng agreed wholeheartedly. From that day on, he began cooking for himself. But the sweet idol on screen was not as simple as he seemed. Zhu Yi, the most popular member of his group, was the main vocalist and the team's cute mascot. Known as the sweet little hamster, he captured countless fans with his adorable looks and endless appetite, even though his singing and dancing weren't the strongest. On livestream, he appeared cheerful and innocent. But when the camera shut off and he returned to the dressing room, his smile vanished. Staring into the mirror at his unfamiliar reflection, Zhu Yi couldn't help but remember that meeting 4 months ago. His manager had told him bluntly, you're hardworking and talented, but your cool image doesn't fit the concept of a debut boy group. If you want to make it, you'll need to sign a persona contract. Looking at his current cutesy image, Zhu Yi could only sigh helplessly. What frustrated him even more was that the audience loved this fake persona. None of them knew that once the fake lashes and colored lenses came off, he looked like a completely different person. But to Zhu Yi, as long as he could stand on stage, who he was didn't matter. One evening, Cheng Shixian was watching old videos of Zhu Yi while waiting for a new upload. Every time he saw the idol's face, he felt a growing urge to see him in real life, to know if he was just as perfect off-screen. Then, suddenly, something outside the window caught his eye. He immediately told his driver to stop by the roadside and began taking off his coat, startling the elderly chauffeur, who slammed the brakes in shock. Stepping out, Cheng realized it was a live fan event for Zhu Yi. He ordered the driver to wait in place, then walked toward the crowd, wearing a jacket similar to Zhu Yi's. It was his first time trying offline fan chasing. But he hadn't expected such chaos. The event was still an hour away, and yet the venue was already packed. Still, the CEO didn't lose heart. A good view was all that mattered. Proximity was secondary. After all, he thought smugly, the higher the ground, the broader the view, no need to fight for front row when you're tall and superior. But his confident smile lasted barely 3 seconds, because in front of him, the fangirls were already pulling out stools and ladders. No mercy, no morals. In an instant, the CEO's smile disappeared. The mountain of fans before him felt just like people's prejudices, no matter how tall he stood. He couldn't surpass them. But Cheng Shixian was not one to give up easily. His sharp eyes scanned upward, from the second floor. The stage was perfectly visible. So, he headed upstairs elegantly. Only to discover, of course, that the second floor was already packed. The third floor too. At that moment, the CEO finally realized the magnitude of the situation. The sea of people made his temples throb. Anger flared in his eyes. Fine, he thought coldly. Maybe I should just buy the entire building. When the fan event finally began, the sweet little idol greeted everyone cheerfully on stage, while our CEO sat sulking alone in the corner. For the sake of keeping a low profile, he'd given up on his earlier idea of buying the entire building. But after an hour of brooding, he still hadn't come up with a better plan. Then suddenly, he heard a child nearby crying to his mother, "Mom, my toy fell out the window." He instinctively turned his head to look, and in that instant, inspiration struck. Moments later, he was leaning against the window, peering down at his prey, the idol himself, completely terrifying the nearby children. By now, the event had reached the interaction segment, where 3 lucky fans would be chosen to go on stage for games. The host picked a girl in a bright red outfit first. Then a second girl with pigtails. And for the third, our CEO quietly put on a mask, used a springboard prop to launch himself into the air. 1, 2, 3, boing. And just like that, he was chosen. Indeed, the man's luck never failed him. Even so, Cheng Shixian didn't lose his composure, until his beige hat fell off as he landed awkwardly. The crowd parted in shock, realizing he'd used a mini trampoline to jump. The fans nearby were speechless, many admitting defeat before such audacity. Even Cheng himself thought it was less than dignified. Fortunately, the mask hid his face, saving at least a shred of reputation. On stage, both the host and Zhuyi, the idol, were stunned. But since he'd already been chosen, they could only roll with it. And so, under the curious stares of hundreds of fans, our CEO strode proudly onto the stage, chest out, head high. Meanwhile, the mother who had witnessed his acrobatics earlier scooped up her child and fled. "If you ever act like that fanboy uncle," she warned, "don't call me Mom again." How embarrassing. For most fans, a close encounter with their idol would be a dream come true. But for Cheng Shixian, it was the beginning of a nightmare. Standing before him, Zhuyi was just as radiant and charming as on screen. The CEO stared blankly at him, lost for words. Zhuyi, meanwhile, was getting nervous. Why does this guy look so weird? Is he a hater? Still, the idol kept his professional smile. The CEO's eyes sparkled with admiration, and at that very moment, his stomach growled loudly. After all, this was the same idol whose eating videos cured his anorexia. The onstage game involved spinning a wheel to determine the type of fan interaction. Each of the 3 fans took turns. The girl in red drew 10 seconds of deep eye contact. She also received a gift box of yogurt. Zhuyi handed it to her sweetly, while Cheng stood by, watching blankly. The second fan drew head-to-head heart pose. Cheng studied the interaction carefully, curious. But as he watched both moments unfold, he began to realize, coming up on stage might have been a huge mistake. Worse still, he hadn't eaten anything all day. His stomach was now loudly protesting. At this point, he just wanted to get it over with. When his turn came, the CEO confidently stepped forward. But fate, or perhaps the curse of romance tropes, had other plans. The wheel stopped on Princess Carrie with 10 squats. Both the idol and the CEO froze. What kind of ridiculous fan benefit is this? Cheng's stomach twisted painfully in embarrassment and hunger. Why, he thought, must my destiny include such cliched nonsense? Zhu Yi, noticing his discomfort, asked softly, "Are you feeling unwell? Do you want me to carry you instead?" The CEO blinked. Wait, isn't it supposed to be the man who carries the other? But facing those big, earnest eyes, Cheng felt his head spin, and he nodded. And so, the idol carefully lifted the tall, suited man into his arms. The audience erupted into laughter and cheers. Trying to maintain his dignity, Cheng muttered, "Let's make it 5 squats each." To be fair, Zhu Yi agreed with a smile and began his squats. All the while, his professional grin never faltered, though Cheng's stomach kept growling audibly. He desperately pulled his scarf lower to muffle the noise. When the 5th squat ended, Cheng quickly got down. "My turn," he said stiffly. The crowd went wild. One group of fans screamed, "I can't believe our baby is so strong. What a cute powerhouse." Another group shouted back, "Don't objectify my husband." Ignoring the chaos, Cheng tightened his scarf around his waist, took a deep breath, and lifted Zhu Yi into his arms. This was his chance to make a good impression. 1 squat, 2, 3. By the 4th, his legs were trembling. Sweat dripped down his forehead. Still, with sheer determination, he forced himself upward, and promptly fell backward. The two of them crashed to the stage floor together. For a moment, there was utter silence. Then, the room exploded into uncontrollable laughter. Both men wished they could disappear on the spot. After the painfully awkward moment, Cheng grabbed his box of yogurt and exited the stage with the other fans. He hadn't even shown his face, but somehow still felt utterly humiliated. In the car afterward, he sat slumped in defeat, groaning softly. What a disaster. Zhu Yi, watching him leave, couldn't help thinking, that guy was really strange. I hope next time he's not so intense. Though mortified, Cheng still changed clothes before heading home. Every replay of the scene in his mind was like a personal execution. His first offline fan experience had left a deep emotional scar. Meanwhile, his elderly driver glanced at him through the mirror. "Sir," he asked innocently, "was today's disguise part of an investment survey? Perhaps into trampoline manufacturing?" Cheng froze, speechless, fury bubbling beneath his calm exterior. He couldn't even explain. Later, at the office, an assistant brought him takeout. For a man who never touched junk food, this was already unusual. While muttering about how greasy and unhealthy it was, he quietly opened Zhu Yi's latest eating stream, and began eating along. A moment ago he was scoffing at fast food. The next, he was devouring it happily. Indeed, the power of the meal idol was unmatched. Then, glancing at the trending list, he froze. Zhu Yi was trending under the tag #BarbieBeast. Opening the post, Cheng nearly dropped his chopsticks, his adorable idol now paired with a surprisingly muscular frame. The contrast was shocking. His face flushed red immediately. The comments were filled with fan slang he couldn't make sense of. For a newcomer to fan culture like him, it was pure chaos. One thing was clear to him now, the world of fandom was far more complicated than he had ever imagined. Each time you enter a new circle, you must first understand its rules. Blindly competing or following trends without judgment will only make you look like a fool. The reason he'd embarrassed himself earlier was simply because he'd suffered from a lack of culture. Just as that realization hit him, a terrifying voice came from above, "Young people these days, too reserved." The CEO froze. He instantly knew who it was. Looking up, he saw the last person he wanted to see. "Aunt, what are you doing here?" His aunt, the legendary business tycoon herself, sat there calmly with a cup of coffee. "Just passing by," she said lightly, "thought I'd check on you." Outside the window, a private helicopter waited. The CEO sighed inwardly. Could this situation possibly get more ridiculous? "I'm only chasing a celebrity," he tried to explain. His aunt raised a brow. "That's rare, tell me more." But his fan journey had been so tragic that he didn't even know how to begin. "I'm still figuring things out," he muttered vaguely. Of course, his aunt saw right through him. You've always been too earnest. That kind of rigid sincerity won't get you anywhere. Opportunities must be created, not waited for. Her words hit deep. Wasn't that exactly what he'd been trying to do, chase stars quietly? Low-key, and within reason? Then his aunt added with uncanny accuracy. Don't tell me you're planning to accidentally meet him in public places. Increase exposure, and build a friendly image. He turned away, defeated. She'd guessed everything again. Seeing her clueless nephew, the aunt switched to teacher mode. You need to learn to cater to his preferences, show proper concern, and support his career and personal life. Got that? The CEO nodded earnestly, pulling out a notebook. So, ranking votes and fan support projects too. Exactly, his aunt replied, then added coolly. But we're from the Cheng family. We don't need to play games. If you like a little star, just keep him. The CEO blinked. And just like that, he was successfully brainwashed. Except in his head, keeping meant feeding the idol 3 meals a day. He closed his eyes, smiling blissfully at the thought, then suddenly snapped back to reality. Shouting, "That's not what I meant." But his aunt just sipped her coffee with a knowing smirk. There's nothing our family can't get. Back then, the man who defied me is now my dearest sweetheart. The CEO went speechless. He knew his aunt too well, arguing was pointless. So he crossed his arms, turned his back, and muttered, I don't want anyone meddling in my affairs. I prefer simple pleasures, and falling for an ordinary little idol was unexpected. But since he caught my eye, I'll make sure he knows, sooner or later. He'll be mine. He turned dramatically to end his speech, only to find his aunt wasn't listening. She was on the phone, smiling sweetly. Yes, sweetheart, I'm heading home now. Of course I didn't forget our anniversary. Blame my nephew, he's been pestering me for love advice. The way she cooed into the phone completely shattered her domineering image. After hanging up, she stood and said, That's enough for today, your uncle's waiting for dinner. Then she stepped into her helicopter. Before taking off, she added, Don't worry, I'll stay out of your little plan. But as he watched the helicopter vanish into the clouds, a sense of dread gnawed at him. The next morning, he made a strategic retreat, a sudden business trip. Yet fate, ever mischievous, had other plans. The little idol and his manager boarded the very same plane. Our seats got switched again. The manager told the idol, Stay put and behave. Okay. Once on board, the manager scanned the cabin carefully. He saw the CEO, asleep, wearing an eye mask, and decided he looked harmless. The overexcited girl nearby, however, screamed, Saseng. So he let his artist stay in place. Though he warned, Don't drop your guard, that man could be a stalker too. Thus, the idol watched the sleeping man for a long while. Until the flight attendant came over with a menu. Vegetable salad, please, he said politely. At that moment, the CEO stirred awake. He removed his eye mask, and froze. It was him. Of all coincidences, to wake up and find yourself sitting beside your idol. Fine, he thought, this time I'll show my best side. Then realization struck. No way this is coincidence. It's Aunt's doing again. Still, pretending calm, he flashed a card. One of everything on the menu. Please. The attendant nodded respectfully, after all, the airline belonged to his company. When the food arrived, the idol's jaw dropped. Who eats like this on a 2-hour flight? The CEO noticed the puzzled stare and explained, I may have overordered, want to share? The idol politely declined. I'm on a diet, thank you for the offer. But watching that fragile frame nibble at lettuce made the CEO's heart ache. He insisted, just try a little. I said no, the idol replied firmly. The CEO tried again. The idol refused again. Soon the two were gently tugging at the tray, until the manager rushed over. Alarmed. Sir, could we swap seats? The CEO blinked. And you are? I'm his manager, the man said sharply. And so, defeated once more, the CEO agreed to move to the back row. He sat there quietly, reflecting on his failed attempt at kindness. Meanwhile, the idol whispered, I think I've seen that guy before, a fan. Maybe. Wore a mask last time. But I remembered his eyes. The manager frowned. Fans aren't the same as stalkers. But remember, keep your distance. In fact, I bet half this cabin's full of sasaengs. Even the flight attendants. When we land, run. So as soon as the plane touched down, they were ready, tense and alert. The CEO, however, was just rehearsing his apology in his head. I must have seemed rude earlier. I'll apologize properly. He had no idea that a storm was brewing behind him. The moment the cabin door opened, a swarm of screaming fans rushed forward. The idol and his manager bolted. Everyone else trampled straight over the CEO. He lay there, dazed and bruised, trying to figure out what just happened, when another blow came from above. An old lady's cane. Out of my way, young man, she barked, racing after the idol with surprising speed. And so, in the chaos, the once dignified CEO lay flat on the ground, spitting blood and questioning his life choices, utterly defeated by love, fate, and one overly dedicated fandom.